Okay, so welcome to this introductory seminar. But also a very big welcome to BIOB111. And I hope that even if you find it a little bit difficult at first, that I hope that after you've finished your studies, you'll be able to look back and say, wow, that really did tie in with the rest of my degree. And yes, it might have been hard, but I really did need it. So this introductory slide, you can see that it's got a lot of information about magnesium here. So magnesium is one of the elements that we do vaguely cover, and you can see that there's quite a few foods that have got magnesium in it. There's a picture of what magnesium looks like naturally. In the oxide form, it's nice and white, and there's a cute little joke here about, I heard that oxygen and magnesium were going out, and I was like, OMG. And of course you'd recognize the O and the MG as something that you would find on the periodic table. So magnesium, just like a lot of other elements, plays a role in life, and magnesium's role includes maintaining normal nerve function, supporting a healthy immune system, maintaining heartbeat, and so on. And so you can see that the things that you'll be learning about are very important in life, as well as being part of chemistry. So there's a real reason why you're going to learn some stuff about chemistry. So in this seminar, we'll just talk a little bit about why chemistry and biochemistry is important. I'll go through how what you need to know about this course to be successful, what resources are available to you, if you need help, where to go to get it, some study tips, a little bit about academic consultations, and of course in the end we'll go over some of your questions about what you've learned so far, and that will include going over balancing equations, because I'm quite sure that there'll be at least one of you that would like me to go over that, I hope. Otherwise, some of the people that are watching the recording might want me to anyway. Okay, so for chemistry and biochemistry, it's really important that you know about it because the matter, like the atoms, they are so important in helping keep us alive. And there's this cute little periodic table here, which just shows some of the things that different elements can be used in. So they're not actually about our body life, but they are about our lifestyle in general. But related to your course, you'll find that if you're doing human biology at the moment as well, so the anatomy and physiology, then you'll find that there are some crossovers between what we teach and what they teach, and so you'll see some connections there. But it's also really good for learning about disease processes. It's very related to immunology. They're both pathways, and so of course biochemistry is about how we metabolize food, so how we take in food and how we convert it into energy for our body's needs. And also diseases happen, and so things go wrong. So we have things like diabetes, which are affected by the pathways, the biochemical pathways in our body. But immunology is, of course, that's a different type of biochemistry in a way, because it's about the pathways related to how organisms, or how our body fights organisms. And so you'll see some crossovers when you learn a little bit about immunology. Pharmacology, of course, the chemistry in particular is really important. And of course, pharmacology, some of the drugs affect different metabolic pathways in different parts of our body, so there's a crossover there. And there's a huge crossover with nutrition, because a lot of the elements that you'll learn about that are needed in food relate back to the body and the biochemical pathways. And when you do clinical practice, you may see some crossover there as well. So first of all, with navigating the LMS and knowing how to use it, actually that information's wrong, because it's not posted at the top of the week 1 LMS. It's actually in the information under the newsletter, the latest news subject news, latest announcements. Such a big word, I never remember the order of the words. And so if you look at the video that I have suggested that you watch, and if you need to learn how to use the LMS, that will help. And you can refer back to that at any point in the semester to help you figure out how the LMS works. But of course, you have the home pages, and we have subject outlines on the home pages, student study guides, and weekly learning materials. And so they're all important for helping you learn. Of course, the most important thing in your weekly tabs is the screencasts. So they are what they can have all of the learning that you need to do. And so of course, if you watch the screencasts and you need extra help, then you can go to the textbook, or of course, look at some of the extra materials that we provide. And there's also the Padlet that I've provided, and I've got links to a lot of little YouTube videos that may help you on topics that you're having troubles with. Of course, we have the notice board or the forums. So the subject news latest announcements. Hopefully you guys will understand if I ever type it wrong what I mean, but we've got the two parts of the forum, the loop and the subject news latest announcements. The subject news latest announcements one is where I will put the things that are occurring each week and any other really important announcements. You can't post anything under there. If you have questions related to anything, you'll have to go to the loop and make a post. And of course we have the loop, and that's where you guys can post, and I can also post, and then you can reply to things I post there. The loop's really good because you can ask questions and hopefully some other people will answer them, or you can answer someone else's questions. So please, if someone posts a question and you know the answer to it, feel free to go ahead and do that, because one of the important things with learning is the peer interaction. And if someone posts something and you try and answer it, that means that you will think more deeply about that answer than you would have if you were just passively looking at some information. So it's a really good chance for you to stretch your knowledge, and of course to help the person who's posting actually learn some things. So please feel free to answer people's questions, and don't worry if you do say something wrong. It may be a little bit embarrassing, but don't feel too bad about it. I could post and correct, but it's much better that you post and get it wrong than you don't try. And so I won't be upset that you got it wrong or anything. So just please feel free to post. So the way the subject works is that you have the 13 weeks of content that's delivered to you, and of course after that you will have an exam a few weeks later. We have study guides which come out or there's one for each session, and it tells you a little bit about what you're learning in that session, and it also has some useful questions and things in there if you want to stretch yourself further than the other information, if you have lots of time, or if you need that extra bit of help trying to learn something. There's a PDF of the lecture notes, so you can download that or print it out if you want to. Otherwise, you can just look at it on the screen. There's the screencasts, of course. We have the PDFs of the tutorials, and because you guys are the equivalent of the semester students, Dr. Vishnu Bhatt is doing those digital tutorials, which there is actually, he has decided to put the recordings up because a few people asked for them. So you will find them at the bottom of each weekly tab under a section called Weekly Tutorial Recordings. So if you can't make it, you can always go there. We also have weekly review quizzes, and so then you can go through and do some multiple choice questions to help yourself with your learning. I provide you guys with Padlet, which has the YouTube videos to help you. And I also have WordPress, and actually maybe I should just show you WordPress. So basically WordPress shouldn't add anything extra than what is anywhere else. It's just that because the LMS isn't the best type of viewing platform ever. So I started doing the WordPress just so that anyone who wanted to look at it in a different form, some of the information in a different format could see it. Just change the screen. Okay, so can you see it says BIOB111 chemistry and biochemistry, and it's got some sessions up the top? Anyone?
Yeah, I can see.
Oh, yeah. Great. So this is the front page for it. So up here, if you go to those sessions, it says it has my little real life applications type things. They're already up there, so you can look at them there if you want to. Oh, okay, something's gone wrong here. So you can actually view the classes, and that's a list of all of the sessions and the summary sheets that I provide on the subject news latest announcements when I do the weekly post, and I have the summary sheets afterwards. You can also come here to get them if you want to, and there's a little bit of information about each session here. Back here I do have the recordings, so of course this is the first August one, so there isn't an August tab yet, but this is another place you can go to find the recordings, because I've still got them up there if you really wanted to look at something before I do that webinar session. You could look at my recordings from July or May. There's this section down here, and this is really important for when you're doing the assignments or the quizzes. If you need to find a form or figure out what to do because you've missed a quiz or you're going to miss a quiz or something like that, the information is here. So I've got links through to the policies. These are all available on your student portal, but just if you find that it's easier just to go here, it's another way to find that information quickly. And I've just got some of the helpful details for you here as well. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So assessment-wise, we've got formative and summative assessments. So formative assessments are the sort of assessment that you do, but you don't get any marks for doing. And they are really good for highlighting things that you don't know. And so not only does it help you bring things out of your memory, but it teaches you what you don't know and what you need to go back and review. And so we have two types of formative assessment. There are the weekly review quizzes. I guess you could also call the Socrative quizzes that you're doing a bit of formative assessment, and even the tutorials, you could always think of them as formative assessment too. But the main pieces are the weekly review quizzes, which are multiple choice, and they're really good because they'll teach you a bit about each session. They are also good practice for when you do the first quiz in week 4. And before you do the quiz in week 4, we have a practice quiz, and you'll find that on the week 3 tab. So once you've gone through all of the information up to the end of week 3, then you might like to go and do the practice quiz so that you know what to expect for the quiz in week 4. Summative assessment includes the 2 quizzes. So the first one is in week 4, and that one covers the information from session 1 to session 6. It's worth 20%. There's 30 questions involved, and it takes 40 minutes to do, or up to 40 minutes. After that, it gets cut out. You also have quiz 2 in week 9, so that covers sessions 7 to 14, I think it is. 14 or 15. You can find that information on the subject outline if you want to check it up. It's also worth 20%, and it's 40 questions, and you have 45 minutes to do it in. Then in week 12, you have a written assignment due. So what I suggest is once you have done quiz 2, you then directly afterwards start working on the written assignment. And so I will have so for each quiz, just beforehand, we'll have a review tutorial session. And then for the written assignment, I'll also do a webinar to explain a little bit about what's expected there, just so that you understand a little bit better about what's expected, and hopefully you'll get a better mark on the assignment by watching that video, or of course coming along to the tutorial session. And then you have the final exam, which is worth 40% of your mark. And again, we'll also have a Zoom session when it's getting close to that date to help you review for that. And I'll also post some helpful questions in the preparation as in the runtime, sort of after the sessions finish. So after week 13, before the exam, just so that you're getting some extra things to think about in your preparation for that exam. So the important dates for you guys, the census date is August the 28th. So if for any reason you think you may need to pull out of the subject, if you find that you've actually got way too much happening in your life, or if it's too hard or something, pull out before, actually this will be a Friday, pull out before August the 28th, and then you won't have any HEX fees associated with it. I don't think you're also like, so any endeavour fees, which I presume most of you are getting HEX for this. So, but yes, make sure that you make that decision before the August the 28th and pull out then. So I've told you about the revision tutorials in weeks 4 and 8. So your final exam will be sometime in the week beginning November the 23rd. And it will be an online exam. And so unless they were to change something in the near future, it will be using a program called Respondus. And basically what happens is you will need a video camera on your computer, and that will have to be on for the whole time you're doing the exam. And that's just to make sure that you're not cheating. So if you leave the computer, you're allowed to do that once an hour, I think, for 5 minutes. I can't remember, but the rules are somewhere, so when it's getting close you can see it. But basically it's not really ominous. We're not going to be watching every move you make. It's just that the computer will flag, or the program will flag if they think it's a problem, and so we'll just look and see, oh yes, she was away for this amount of time, but that's fine. Oh yes, and the results will be released on December the 18th. So Christmas present for you. So get good marks so that then you get a really good Christmas present. Support-wise, there's me. So I'm your online academic for Group 3. So you can contact me through the Loop. We can use FaceTime if you want to, or the phone if you really want to. Zoom is my favorite because we can do face-to-face with camera if you have it, or just voice-wise, and it means that I can share my screen and explain something to you if we need to, and of course you can email me. There is also the messenger program at the LMS, and that's a really quick way to message me. The only thing is I do send out a few huge messages to my students, and I have 4 classes worth of students. If I do that, there is a chance that I may miss a message that you've sent. So if you message me and you don't get a reply in a decent amount of time, message me again or email me. And definitely, if it's something really important, just email me, because I'll get that and it won't get lost. And of course, communication-wise, subject news, latest announcements is where all of the big things go. So make sure you at least check it on Monday each week, and possibly other times when you just happen to hop online as well. And the Loop is where all the student questions will be. And this will be particularly useful just before the quizzes and before the written assignment, and I guess before the exam, because that's when other people will be asking questions. So if you have a question related to your assessment, go to the Loop first and just check it out in case the answer is there. And of course, if you've got the time and you do the participation plus type questions, stick them on the Loop, or if someone else has done it, have a look at what they've written and add your 2 cents worth, so that, and try and build your thinking a little bit deeper than the person before you. Was someone about to say something? No? It was just background sound? Okay. Any questions so far? No? Okay. And so outside of me, you have a lot more support. You have the on-campus academic team, and what that means is basically each of you is from, well, not each of you, but there are quite a few. How many campuses do we have? Gold Coast, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, Perth. 6 campuses. So you're from one of 6 campuses. So you get further support from the senior lecturer in bioscience related to your campus. So if you are having a lot of trouble and it's the sort of the administration type stuff that I haven't had to deal with, then you can always go and speak to them, particularly if you're having overall problems just with sort of working with the degree, and if you're having problems, then it might be good to speak to the senior lecturer. Also, if for some reason you don't do a bit of assessment, I will be referring you to the senior lecturer, and they will make a meeting with you so that you can discuss your issues with them. But of course, you can also speak to me about things. The library, don't forget that exists and that there's a website for it, and there's information about using the library's website on the video that I made. So they have e-resources and databases. So the Stoker comes as an ebook at the library, and when you do the written assignment, you'll want to use some of the resources from the library site. And of course, when you come to doing the written assignment, you'll be doing referencing, and the library does provide a little chat program during the daytime hours, so you can ask them for help with your referencing if you need to. Student services are a fantastic go-to place. It can be hard to speak to them at times if they're overloaded with people, but they know who to send you to for any problems that you're having. And of course, you can always post on the Loop or make Facebook groups with the rest of your classmates or something, because their support and the shared knowledge between you all is always helpful. Pardon? Did someone speak? Jen, your microphone's on, so I don't know if you're, yep. So I presume you were talking to someone. Oh, there's a question here. Talia, is there a standard referencing document for Endeavour Science referencing? There is a standard referencing document. I'll go to the library site quickly. Okay, so you can see my LMS. And if I go to the library, see the first thing down here says APA referencing guidelines. So all of the subjects at Endeavour use APA referencing style. And so there's a whole booklet there called the Referencing Guideline. And that has everything you need to know. And so they have lots of examples. If you come down, you can see there's examples of in-text referencing. And then there's information for referencing lists as well. So there's plenty of help there. Now back to the PowerPoint. Is that the one? Yep, just finished with that one. Okay, so tips for success with the subject. So you're expected, basically the way it works is you're meant to be doing 6 hours per week of timetabled work. So that is basically watching the screencasts. Then each week you should be doing 4 personal study hours a week. So that's doing things like the tutorials and any extra thing that you like to. So the subject, you should be looking at spending 10 hours per week on BIOB. Stay up to date. That's a hard thing to do, but the closer you can stay to being up to date, then the less problems you'll have overall, especially if something comes up one week. If you've stayed up to date, then if you find yourself behind one week, it's going to be easier to catch up than if you're chasing your tail right from the very beginning. Keep an eye on the posts in the subject news latest announcements. And of course, I haven't changed the wording. Sorry, I'm not calling them News Digest posts anymore. I can't think what I'm calling them, but my weekly posts. Look at the suggestions that I have in there and the information that I have each week, and that will help you. And attend the online tutorials and quiz revision webinars, assessment webinars as well, because they will, of course, give you an idea of what you need to do to pass each part of the unit. And watch the videos if you can't attend the webinars in person. It's always a good idea to make a plan and, of course, to revise what you've learned. Okay, so did anyone have any questions related to the way BIOB111 runs? So everyone's happy? Talia's good. Talia speaks for the group. Okay, so, oh yep, everyone's good. So feel free to use the microphone. Balancing equations. So before we actually start balancing it, can you see I've got these little bits in red? Do you know what these stand for? The S, the G, the S, and the L?
No, I don't.
Excellent, someone's talking. So the S stands for solid, the G stands for gas, and the L stands for liquid.
Cool. Okay, that makes sense.
And so if you see that in the equations, that's all it means. Okay, so now let's look at balancing this equation. So if you have this equation and you want to figure out how it's balanced, how would you do it? Would you use a table like this?
I'm not up to the balancing equations yet, so I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Is anyone up to the balancing equation bit yet?
Yeah, so you start by filling out the table and listing out the different types of elements. And then in the second column, you put the number of atoms of that element.
Yep.
And
So
the reactants and the products.
Yep. So just in case some of you aren't up to it yet, the molecules that are on the left-hand side are known as the reactants because they're going to be reacting together, and the molecules on the right-hand side are known as the products because they're what is produced. And you can see this little arrow means that when you add this and this together, you get these products. So they've changed form a bit. So where we've got H2 here, in the end, the oxygen from the iron binds to the H2 and we get H2O, which is water, and iron solid. So the first thing to do when you're balancing equations is to list what, actually, I think I have to escape from the PowerPoint to do this. Okay, so now I can write in it. So the first thing we do is list the reactants. So the atoms that are involved in the reactants. So can anyone tell me an atom that's involved in this reaction on the reactant side? I've lost the chat window.
And oxygen and hydrogen.
Yep, and is there iron as well? That's the Fe, by the way. Yeah. Fe stands for iron. So, and oxygen and hydrogen. I have lost the chat window. Zoom's been very naughty. Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, no one had typed anything anyway. And we can do the same with the products. So do we have the same atoms involved or are there different atoms involved?
Yeah, you've got the same.
The same.
Okay, so we'll type them here. Now, so we should count, so I should type number of atoms there and number of atoms. Okay, so iron, how many atoms are on the reactant side?
3.
Yep, and how many atoms are on the product side?
3 as well.
And with oxygen, how many oxygen are on the reactant side?
4.
And how many on the product side?
1.
So there's actually 4
Shared.
oxygens because you've got the coefficient sitting out here, that's 4. That 4 relates to everything in here. So it's 4 times oxygen, and because oxygen doesn't have a subscript, so it's just 4.
Okay.
And then hydrogen.
4.
So how many on
8.
the... Yep. And so can you see how it's 8?
Yeah, because you times the 4 times 2.
Yep. So you've got to take the coefficient into your thoughts and then times it by the number of subscripts, if there are any subscripts.
Mm-hmm.
So how many hydrogens are involved in the product side?
8 as well.
So can everyone see that?
Yeah.
Yep. Unfortunately, we've got no balancing to do. I should have thought about the balance, the equation that I put down here, so to make sure it was one that needed balancing. Bonus is because you've got the digital tutorials, Vishnu will do some balancing equations, so I won't try and dig one out now. But there is another type of question that is in your tutorial sessions that you might not understand how to do. And I have posted about it on the Loop, but it's easier to talk about here as well. And so basically, when you look at these equations, you can use the terms, the molecules term and the moles term as a way of counting things. And so the first of the questions, actually that should probably say 17 and 16. The first question on the tutorial related to this is, it has this equation and then it says how many molecules of oxygen react with 2 molecules of C2H6. And so you can see in the equation C2H6, this is ethane, by the way. So ethane has the 2 out the front and the oxygen has a 7. So if we're thinking about molecules, you could think that this is 2 molecules of ethane and 7 molecules of oxygen. So you can see you need 2 molecules of ethane to react with 7 molecules of oxygen to make 4 molecules of carbon dioxide and 1 of water.
Okay.
And so you can also think of that as moles, because moles, of course, is just like having a dozen of something. So instead it's 6.02 by 10 to the 23. So it's a huge number, but it's a standard number. So you can just think of the word moles instead, and you could say that you need 2 moles of the ethane to react with 7 moles of oxygen to create the 4 moles of carbon dioxide and 1 mole of water.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this second question, it asks how many moles of oxygen react with 4 moles of ethane. So you see how you've got 2 here at the moment. So if you picture this as a 4 instead of a 2, 4 is double the C2H6. So you would just do double the oxygen as well.
14.
So you'd have 4 moles of ethane reacting with 14 moles of oxygen to create how many carbon dioxide?
8.
Yep. And how many water?
2.
Yep.
2.
So does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I think that's, just look, yep, that was all I wanted to go through. So was there anything else? Are there any questions on any of the tutorial sessions that you guys have done so far that you'd like me to go through?
No, I have got no questions actually.
I've got no questions. Where will this the recording be? On the where will you put the recording again?
I think I'm just going to put this on my own YouTube channel, and I'll just post the link on
The link, okay.
the subject news announcements, because I'm just one of the 4 lecturers. I can't just take up the room by putting, hey, this is my recording sitting up here, because it'll get too confusing. So I'll just post my link, and it saves the EdTech people work as well, because we're not allowed to post things ourselves.
Okay, great. That would be awesome, just to look back on.
Yep. So I don't think I'll go back and edit anything out. Sometimes I try and shorten them if I've had a lot of spaces in between things, but I think I'll just do this fairly raw and just stick the link up for you guys.
Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Yeah, awesome.
Yep. And so if you have any other questions associated with this, the loop is your friend.
That's so great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So did anyone have, hang on, I'll just, I'll turn off the recording now.